Hi, and welcome back to Wake Up and Dream. I'm here with lovely Lisa and Kelly. We are super excited for this episode. I want to, before jumping into my topic today, which is how to create a new paradigm, I really want to quickly review what Lisa shared last week. Lisa always has such an amazing way to break down difficult concepts. And I get so much value whenever she's speaking because I just feel like she's got acronyms and she's got different tricks and tips for breaking things down so nicely. And she shared last week about paradigms, and she had two coins, paradigms. And I just absolutely love the reference. And I feel like now when I see coins, I automatically think about that. But I want to just review quickly before talking about how to change paradigms, what Lisa talked about last week in terms of what the heck is a paradigm. So Lisa shared last week, and if you didn't listen to Lisa's episode, or even if you did, repetition is key. Go back, listen again. It was a great, great episode. You'll get a lot out of it. And it's really key and foundational in moving forward in this work. So if you have not listened, or if you need to listen again, go back and listen to Lisa's episode from last week on paradigms in general. But what Lisa shared last week on just a high level, quick snippet, what a paradigm is, she referenced Bob Proctor's definition of what a paradigm is. And that is a set of habitual behaviors and beliefs that almost exclusively determine your results. So what does this mean? It means that we have habitual thinking, beliefs, behaviors, all of which are running our life. And so much of them we're not even aware of. So Lisa provided us with awareness that these paradigms exist, and every single result in our life is a result from the behaviors and habits that we have, which is a really powerful realization. Because if you have a result that you are not happy with, whatever the result is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a business goal. Like any result in your life that you are not happy with, there are habits and thinking and just different things in your life that are keeping you there, different beliefs. These beliefs could be so deep rooted from like your childhood that are keeping you stuck in this result. But the cool thing about these paradigms is once you're aware of what they are and how they are keeping you stuck, you have the power to change them. And that's really what I want to dive into a little bit today. So first step is becoming aware. So again, go back to Lisa's episode, check it out, think a little bit about it, do the work on that. That's not really an easy task to dig into. And you have to be vulnerable to actually look at the result that you're getting that is not the result that you want. And then look at the habits and thought patterns and things that are keeping you stuck. It's kind of, it could be a little bit of a heavy exercise to do, but it really is the first step in creating lasting change. Super, super important part of the process. So knowing and being aware that these paradigms exist is one thing. Taking action to change them is completely different. So knowing and doing are completely different things. Just knowing that they exist is not going to make a lasting change. And actually, I'm going to take that one step farther, because perhaps you are aware of a behavior that's not serving you and you're trying to force a change in behavior. That's also not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You really need to go deeper than that. So a good example that I know we've talked through a bit is New Year's resolutions. We focused a lot on this, in prior episodes, just because it was the beginning of the year, and a lot of times people are focused on this. A New Year's resolution is really a temporary change because it's forcing a behavior. It's not a sustainable change in your paradigm and your habits. It's looking at a behavior that you want to change and forcing a change in that behavior without really getting deep enough to make the change last. So paradigms actually allow us to change behaviors permanently, but there's work involved. So what I'm going to be talking through today, I can talk and talk and talk. Lisa and Kelly can share all of their insight, which I'm sure they will have lots to offer in this discussion as well. It's all up to you. You get to make this change. You get to do the work. You just need to be willing to do it. You need to be persistent. You need to take action. We can share this knowledge. In order to make a lasting change, you need to do the work from that point. So I just want to really be clear as I'm talking through this, not just to listen and absorb, because I love to listen and absorb and learn, but also to think like, okay, this is what I have to do in order to make this change. And it's really important for me to do this for whatever reason that may be. Again, all of this is inner work that you need to look inward and look inward into what you want. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to tie goals into all of this in a little bit. So once you change a paradigm, the behavior starts to just change. It's really not the other way around. Like if you're forcing a behavior to change, you're not really getting at that paradigm, that habit, the habitual thinking, the thoughts, the beliefs that are keeping you stuck in that behavior. And it's hard to think like if you're kind of flipping the coin here, the paradigm, even though I know you talked about it slightly differently, but if you're flipping the coin here, just getting at the paradigm first will then result in different behaviors, different beliefs, different thoughts that will create different results. So that's the path. It's sounds simple. It's not simple to make these changes. But a change in paradigm is a change in your habit, but it's at a deeper level than just changing your behavior around that habit. So another thing that I want to talk through before I want to get into very specific examples. Again, this work is something that you need to do. I'm going to give you some examples on how I've actually changed certain patterns and paradigms in my own experience, but this is going to be something that's very personal to you. But before I jump into a couple examples on how I was able to change some of the paradigms that existed in my life, it's a known fact that changing too many things at once sets you up for failure. A key here is to pick one or two paradigms that you can tell from the work that you've done are not serving you and they're not getting you closer to that result that you want. Again, doesn't matter the result, but these paradigms, you want to just pick one or two. Just back to the New Year's resolution example, a lot of times this is just a common one because I feel like it's all over, social media is, January 1st comes around or maybe January 2nd because, you drink too much on the 31st, whatever it is. The first week in January comes around and you want to exercise more. You want to drink more water. You want to meditate daily. You want to eat healthier. All of those things are really, really great goals. None of them are going to last. If you're going to be piling on all of these changes and you don't really have like a solid foundation, a solid goal to even keep you tethered to one of them, it's going to fall flat. You want to pick one thing. You want to focus on that one thing. You want that to be ingrained until you create a new positive habit and a new paradigm that serves you. Do not make this more complicated and more difficult than it needs to be because this is such a difficult thing to do anyway. Piling on a lot all at once is not an efficient or effective way to get this done. So I really just want to set the tone there because as you're doing this work, you're going to notice a bunch of paradigms that are creeping in that you're like, this isn't serving me. This isn't serving me. This isn't serving me. Awareness is great. Choose one. So we were just talking about the soccer balls. It's a similar concept, one soccer ball at a time. So one of the examples I want to bring up about a paradigm that it's actually not a paradigm that I necessarily wanted to change, but it's something that just ended up changing based on how I changed like my thought process around it. Say, for example, you want to drink less coffee. Why you would want to drink less coffee, I don't know, because coffee is king in my world, but to each their own. But say you wanted to drink less coffee. And for me, this came up in corporate a lot because I would come up when I was in the office, 2, 3 o'clock would roll around and I would have that afternoon cup of coffee to kind of kick me through the finish line of the day. And it's funny because this is long before I did any of this work, So I didn't know about the power of changing habits and paradigms and all of this. But what I did, and it was funny because my manager and I did this kind of together. It was like a joint practice because we shared an office. We had essential oils. I'm like essential oil crazy lady. We had peppermint oil in our office. And around that time when we were like, we need an afternoon pick-me-up, we would both of us, my manager and I, would put peppermint in our hands, rub our hands together, take a few deep inhales. And that was like a super energizing thing that replaced the habit of coffee. In addition to that, I actually had some hot water with lemon during that time. So what I did unknowingly, because I did not do this work and I did not understand what I was actually doing, it just kind of was something that I felt needed to be done at the time, which is very interesting now looking back, is I replaced a habit that was not serving me. Coffee that at that hour was not serving me. Sometimes I slip still to this day because, whatever. But at that time, it was not serving me to have coffee at that hour of the day. So I replaced it with habits that did serve me, which was having lemon water and peppermint, and that would get me through the day. And I wasn't thinking during that time, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I really can't have coffee at 3 o'clock. I can't have coffee. My focus was not there. 3 o'clock came around and I was like, oh, I get my lemon water and I got my peppermint. So it was really a matter of flipping my behavior that I no longer wanted, the behavior that was no longer serving me, to a positive behavior that was serving me. And it's interesting that my manager and I both did this kind of together. He didn't do the lemon water, but people would walk past our office and be like, it's 3 o'clock again. We smell peppermint, because it was just there, So another example that I want to share, because your goals can be different. So that goal, even though, again, that was prior to me doing this work, so it wasn't necessarily tethered to a goal other than I wanted to just change a behavior. So it's not like a good goal, quote unquote, by our definition. But again, it was before my awareness of all of this amazing work. But that goal could be, I want to be healthier. I want to nourish my body in a better way. I want to sleep better in the evenings. And that kind of could be tied into this coffee goal, right? Another thing that I want to bring up, because my jam is parenting, and it always comes back to parenting and how this work has helped me in my parenting. So yelling is something that is a habit. I'm going to say that one more time because I'm like mind blown over this one thing. Yelling is a habit. A circumstance happens in your house with your kids, and your response, or your reaction, I should say, is to yell. It doesn't matter what happens. It is just a habitual behavior that you do that you don't think about. Do you think about yelling? You probably don't. Something happens in your house. Your kids are not listening. They're not getting their shoes on. And your habit in that moment is to yell. If you want that paradigm to shift, you need to replace that with a habit that serves both you and your kids. And again, it's not, if you listen to the responsibility conversation a few weeks ago, it's not on your kids. It's all on you and your thoughts and your reaction in that time. You want to respond instead of react. My habit that I've shifted in this area for my kids is when I feel the urge, because those thoughts still come up. They're not listening to me. Why are they not listening? I really want to get out of the house. All of those thoughts are still there. I'm aware of those thoughts. And what happens now is I take a breather. That is my replacement to yelling. I take a breather. Sometimes, again, I grab an oil, because oils are just kind of in my day-to-day. I'll take my balance oil and I'll put some balance oil in my hands, take a couple of deep breaths to ground me. And then I go in front of them and I say, please go get your shoes on. We need to leave. And that, it doesn't have to be like a 5-minute breather. Sometimes it is, depending on the situation. Honestly, 15 seconds helps you show up differently for your kids. Replacing this paradigm has shifted everything in my life, really. And it's not an easy thing. Did I slip up, especially when I was first starting? Of course. But when you, instead of thinking, I don't want to yell, I'm thinking and I'm placing focus on, I need to grab my oil, I need to take a breather. You're placing focus on a positive habit that's replacing this negative thing that you don't want. You're not forcing a change on that habit. You're changing something that is, you're replacing that with something that's positive, that's going to serve you and your kids. So I feel like I've been talking a lot. I just want to close with just a few things that I feel like, well, I want to get back to the goal thing. Oh man, this is a lot. This is a lot, guys. So hopefully your note taking is very good, because I know you probably have a lot of things to chime in on.
It's all good.
So the last thing that I will close with is to create a new paradigm. We need to create this new set of stories, beliefs, and assumptions that create the vibrational energy that we need in order to take action to our goals. Goals are required and is a very important tool within this, because my goal of yelling less helps me keep myself tethered to my paradigm shift that is taking a breather. And that's something that I'm very aware of. And I feel like it can really apply, this being tethered to a goal can apply in whatever result you are trying to get, whatever is on your goal card, whatever result you are trying to get, you can always map it back. And that can be your kind of anchor as you're going through some of these challenges in creating a new paradigm. So I'm going to just wrap it up there. I did want to come back to how the goals kind of play into this as well, because I think that's an important piece. So again, there's some goals episodes that you can go back and listen to as well if you're still working in that phase. But as you start trying to get to those results, this is a really key point in, flipping some paradigms to making sure they serve you and they get you to that result.
Oh my gosh, Sarah. So I don't even know where to start because I did take so many notes, and this is always so great for all of us because, and not just the three of us, because every time one of us coaches or teaches on a topic, the other two are scrambling to make notes because this is so good. We've been studying this for quite some time, and that's what we want our listeners to do. Like, dive into this again and again and again, because as you evolve and as you grow, you're going to take this information in a different light each time, because it was like, I've heard all about paradigms, Sarah. I know this. And here I am just scribbling all these quick notes because you do hear it in a different light. And one thing that you just kind of just barely skimmed over, Sarah, but it caught me was you as a powerful woman, mom, wife, career woman, whether you're in your 20s, your 80s, it doesn't matter, but you have to decide that it's important for me to do. You are important. So to decide that for yourself, to all of our listeners, you have to decide that you're important and that your paradigms, some right now in your life are serving you and some aren't. And you really have to dig deep and decide which ones aren't serving you. Is it you yelling at your kids? Is it your health? Is it the way you show up at your corporate job and you walk into the office every day? Is it your marriage? Is it your friendship? Is it your relationship with the Lord? Like, wherever that is, to take that time to really reflect. And like Sarah said, pick one that right now is the most important, because the first thing we do is if we slip up, we give up, and then we're done because we're trying to juggle too many things at one time. Pick that one paradigm, whether it's a personal, whether it's how you are raising your kids, speaking to your husband, all the things. If you want more quiet time in the morning, like, just pick one thing and change the habit of what you're doing. And Sarah, you just made it so simple for me, even because there's some things I'm like, how am I going to change this? How am I going to change this? And it's not thinking about, don't do this, don't yell, don't eat the Oreos, don't watch the Netflix, don't drink the glass of wine. It's doing that almost a positive affirmation. Like, at 3:00, I am not going to go for the coffee. But now at 3:00, when that alarm in my head goes off, I am choosing something else. In your case, it was the peppermint oils, and everyone in the office picked up on it. Just that ripple effect creates so much positive energy for yourself and the people around you. Like, one simple thing. And then before you know it, that peppermint oil becomes a habit. And that is what's key about these little paradigms that we have running around, racing in our head. Changing one at a time can make it so much simpler.
Yes.
So good.
I love the coffee analogy, Sarah. I just loved it. And I'm going to put some words on it, because I think you did some things internally that maybe you didn't vocalize. Like, I was like, ooh. And it boils down to what Kelly just said, putting yourself first. Like, realizing you're doing it for you, and literally coming up and having that conversation with yourself, not to say, oh, I'm a really bad person and I shouldn't be drinking coffee. It's coming at it from, you deserve better. Like, you deserve better than to put this caffeine in your body. And I'm kind of excited. It's kind of an adventure we're going to go on, Sara. You're kind of talking to yourself, you're coaching yourself, and you're like, you know what? We're going to have this adventure. And the peppermint, I love peppermint. It's one of my favorite scents. And you like talk yourself into this. And the word that came to mind was attitude. Like, you are bringing an attitude of positive expectation. It's not this shaming, blaming kind of attitude, like, oh yeah, gosh, I gotta do the peppermint thing because I can't do coffee. I told myself I wasn't gonna do coffee, so I guess I gotta do this. You could have done that, right? The behavior would have been the same. You would have gotten out your peppermint, you would have warmed up your hot water with your lemon. The behavior, whether a paradigm is going to shift, it all goes and anchors in the attitude that you bring to it. And you did such a fabulous job. You maybe on a conscious level didn't even realize what you were doing in that moment, but your attitude that you brought, and you changed your thinking, you changed your feeling. And that's what we talk about, how important it is to be aware of our thoughts, to be in touch with our feelings. I think so much. I did a recent move, and I was like not super excited about this move because it had a lot of things around it. And then my daughter said, Mom, we're moving to the palace. And the minute she called it the palace, it was like, oh my gosh. Yes. It was it immediately changed my attitude, my thoughts, and my feelings around something that, needed to happen or was going to happen regardless of how I felt about it, right? And that's how our habits can be too. We get to choose how we feel about it. I just listened to this um story on Facebook of a Labri friend of mine, and she had the coffee challenge as well, and she was doing 3 cups on a regular basis. And her decision that she made in January was that she was going to go in January, she was going to only drink 2 cups, and then in February she was only going to drink 1 cup, and then she was hoping to go down to no coffee by March. And so yesterday was the beginning of that. And by noon, she had the headache coming on. And so she's like, oh, I'm going to do a half a cup, but her attitude this entire time, she didn't do an abrupt change, like no coffee, right? Or a replacement. There's other ways to do the same thing, but her attitude through the whole thing was, I know this is good for my health. I know that drinking coffee at 3 o'clock in the afternoon isn't something that is something I want for my body, for how I feel, all the things. And so she had concocted a story, right? And that's what it is, that self-coaching, that thoughts and feelings, that, you know what? I'm just going to do this. This is going to be easy. I'm just going to knock off 1 cup every month. And that's the sustainable, because I think we get so zealous. I wrote down the word zealousy leads to overwhelm and failure. That's what I wrote down. I'm like, we get so zealous because we're go-getters, right? We're world changers. We want to do it all, and do it all well. And we get zealous, like, no, I can do this. I can walk every day, and I can eat healthy, and I can exercise before bed. And, I get all zealous on all these things because I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. Right. And my my zealousy, I don't know if that's a word or not. I just made it a word. It leads to feeling overwhelmed, like it's not sustainable. And then what happens is we quit. We go back to the old comfort foods and sleeping in and all the things, because yeah, that's where it's at. So I think that's so important to think about your attitude and what you're actually, that awareness piece, like you were talking, Sarah, how important it is to be aware of our thoughts and our feelings around the paradigm that we want to introduce.
Yeah. And the other thing, Lisa, I love the attitude piece, because it's a huge piece to the puzzle. Your attitude in any situation. One thing that keeps coming up for me as both of you were talking as well, and maybe just reflecting on some of the things that I was saying, is there's different approaches, and it's definitely a personal thing. So earlier in the episode, I mentioned like you need to do the work to see what works for you. So I love the approach that your friend took in trying to achieve her goal of cutting back on her coffee entirely, which again, I don't know why anybody would do that, but oh my goodness, I need another cup of coffee this morning. But even still, where your energy goes, this quote is always something that comes back to me when I'm thinking about different things that I'm trying to change, is where your energy goes, where your focus goes, energy flows. And I really want to stress the fact that focusing on that positive change that you're trying to make is so much more important than focusing on the thing it is you are trying to change. So if you're focusing on where you want to go rather than where you are, that's going to make all the difference as you start working through some of these paradigm shifts as well.
Yes, and just being positive. I love just the positive affirmation of it, because it's going back to what you tell yourself you will do and you will be, right? If you tell yourself every day, I'm overweight, or I'm a bad mom, or I can't communicate with my husband, then that's exactly what's going to happen. But almost to just prepare yourself for the 3 o'clock coffee break, for the indulging at night after dinner, like being prepared. And it's knowing that it's important for you to do. You can break these habits and create new ones in weeks' time, but you have to be so committed to you, because you matter. You matter, and your happiness, your joy, your love matters, and it starts with you. Because you know what? I bet Sarah can say this too, like that her shift in her paradigm and how she handles yelling, her kids probably instantly was like, wait, mom's not yelling, and I didn't get my shoes on, and we're still running late for school. What's changing? Like those little minds are picking up on so much, just like Lisa listening to her friend on Facebook. Like there's the outside world that is receiving the energy that you're putting out there from your heart and wanting to be the best version of yourself. And so this was just such a very simple reminder, Sarah. I loved how you just took this and the paradigms and the habits of taking one, shifting one thing, and making it a positive experience for yourself, because we all want the wins, right? We don't want to fail. We don't want to feel defeated. But if you take one thing that means the most to you right now, turn it into the most amazing habit. And then once you feel enlightened and that becomes easy to you without even thinking, it's like breathing, it's like putting on your own shoes, you take on the next one. That, wow, I did that. I did that for myself. And this is life-changing, taking a paradigm one at a time. And the most exciting thing here, you guys, if you're following us here on our podcast, don't forget to join our Facebook group, because we dive into these topics even deeper there. We have graphics and quotes and posts and live videos where we go even deeper. So we will have that link in our show notes. So if you do want to just, what is Lisa and Kelly and Sarah talking about? What more can I learn from them? Because we've got a ton to share, and we are living all of these paradigms and behaviors and thoughts and beliefs in real time, and we want to share it with our community. So that link will be in the show notes. So glad you were able to join us for another episode of Wake Up a Dream. Until next time, again, wake up and dream.